And we are just a few seconds away from the launch, which, by the way, is only going to be about 10 minutes. Here we go. Let's sit back and watch. All right, we are watching Blue Origin's New Shepard launch into space. Jeff Bezos on board. We should mention that this rocket is known as the New Shepard. It is named after Alan Shepard, the first American to go to space. There is some symbolism behind today's launch beyond just the name of the rocket. It was on this day in 1969 that Neil Armstrong became the first person to walk on the moon. In terms of the timing of this historic launch, they're pretty much on schedule. They were a few minutes behind, but this is one of these moments that don't come around too often, and yet we're seeing so many examples of where the space travel industry could be headed, whether it's Virgin Galactic, led by Richard Branson, or the initiatives by Jeff Bezos, and of course the work over at SpaceX by Elon Musk. Now, as I mentioned, these suborbital flights are not long. Obviously, years in the making, incredibly costly, but this flight is only about 10 minutes. And so ultimately, based on this timing, we could see this team back on Earth in just a few minutes' time. Jeff Bezos on board with his brother, Mark, and there have been a series of videos that have been released. Obviously, Jeff Bezos, despite being the world's wealthiest person and for years running a public company, had been fairly private about this private business, as we now get to see some amazing footage from the New Shepard. Gets up there pretty quickly. And obviously the goal here is to eventually send tourists to space. Will there be enough demand for that? Bloomberg did a great interview with the CEO of Blue Origin, who said absolutely. The critics have been quite vocal, especially on social media, seeing billionaires heading to space as something that is not necessarily a priority. Jeff Bezos, in his own words, though, and we shared some of those with you, talking about this setting the stage for a very significant future, which we'll ultimately watch closely. And I mean, the numbers are pretty incredible about the growth of the space industry, and a lot of the watchers of it say it's only a matter of time before private industry revenue will reach $1 trillion. We have seen in the last year alone billions of dollars invested in space startups. And if you're just joining us, we are watching this launch of Blue Origin's New Shepard, named after Alan Shepard, the first American to go to space. This is a private spacecraft company with a goal of sending tourists to space on its reusable rocket. There is one officially of those first paying customers, an 18-year-old Dutch student who is on this flight, along with Jeff Bezos and his brother Mark, and 82-year-old aviator Wally Funk, who's definitely an inspirational story if you want to learn more about her. We mentioned recently the action by Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic, who has similar goals to those of Jeff Bezos. And we have seen, and our friend Critic Update was talking with us about it earlier in the program, some of the excitement reflected in Virgin Galactic's stock price. Virgin Galactic went public back in 2019 via one of those much talked about SPAC offerings. In the case of Blue Origin, though, this is a private company, as is SpaceX. But one has to wonder as these private businesses get bigger and bigger, and the attention, such as this blastoff, gets so much attention, what that is going to mean for the public markets. There's a growing number of exchange-traded funds that are focused on space innovation. We'll talk a little bit more about those later in the program. And of course, Canada has a very rich history with space-related infrastructure. And we recently saw MDA make its TSX listing debut. And there's a lot of excitement in the air. It's undoubtedly a new chapter being led by these deep-pocketed players. As we watch Blue Origin's New Shepard make its way on this suborbital trip, it's a quick one, folks. If you think about the lineups to ride roller coasters at theme parks and the time it actually takes to go on that ride, somewhat similar. It almost looks like they are now starting to make the descent. Again, this is only about a 10-minute flight. And I think one of the questions after that $28 million auction for the first official purchase of a trip with New Shepard, are there a lot of people on the planet that want to pay $28 million for a 10-minute trip? Obviously, for somebody like Jeff Bezos, he's got the funds to be able to make that trip. But certainly from some of the early interest we have seen, whether it's with Blue Origin or with Virgin Galactic, it is quite clear that there is a lot of excitement around this. And even if you think about what Elon Musk has done with SpaceX, and you think about the early days of Tesla and the cost per vehicle, which was in many ways funding the future of Tesla, and the goal to get vehicles that were a lot more affordable. One would imagine that is the road ahead for space travel. And it really is opening the door to a whole host of different related industries. As we are watching a slightly cloudy shot there, but it does look like that reusable rocket is touching down. Pretty remarkable. There you go. So, looks as if everyone is hopefully safe and sound back on the ground. As we mentioned, it's a quick trip, but these reusable rockets, and we've seen some of this amazing footage as well with SpaceX as well, have really opened the door to making this a more affordable proposition. Now there is the capsule carrying Jeff Bezos and his brother Mark and Wally Funk, the 82-year-old aviator. She's a pretty inspirational story. And as well, the runner-up winner of that $28 million auction to be on this trip, an 18-year-old Dutch student who comes from a deep-pocketed family. He's the son of a private equity CEO. But the capsule making its way. And it was just a few minutes ago that this took off. I mentioned earlier that these flights are not long, 10 minutes. So presumably, as the world watches this and becomes curious about this, this is the kind of example that we will see in the future for those who are lucky enough to be able to possibly get a trip up to space. It's not long, but we will likely in the next few minutes, certainly the next couple of hours, get some perspective from these early flyers on what the experience was like, and certainly something none of them have ever experienced in their lifetime. Can you put a price on that? But certainly after Jeff Bezos just officially handed over the CEO baton at Amazon, you understand why to a certain degree when you see these kind of moments, as he has the funds and the passion to pursue this space-focused future. And will we see more events like this in the days and weeks ahead? It seems pretty inevitable as we watch that capsule make its way. It's almost back to touching down